Here's how AH lost her case in a filing where JD, he wrecks AH, putting her on blast for faking mental health conditions in a brand new unsealed filing that we had never seen from the Virginia court before. Now, this is one of the main reasons she ends up losing, and you know what? It's her fault. That's right. She's the one who burned everything down. We are going to talk about that and so much more today. Fun times, huh? Fun times indeed. So, hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day. By the way, I hope you are doing excellently. And talk about bombshells. The court, they decided to drop plenty of them the other day in brand new unsealed documents. These are things that were hidden behind the scenes. A lot of people never thought we were supposed to have access. But you know what? We got access to over 45 different filings. Now, out of all of those unsealed filings, you get this little gem here. This is JD asking the court to let him independently medically examine AH. So you get to bring in an expert. That's going to be Dr. Muffins, by the way, or Dr. Shannon Curry. And you'll notice again, this is filed under seal. Why? Because it gives away the game as far as AH is concerned. Now, when you look at this, too, you can see why this ends up getting approved. Like I said, this ultimately is one of the reasons that she loses the case and loses it badly. Why? Well, listen to this here. Plaintiff JD hereby moves the Virginia court to require defendant AH to submit to an independent mental health examination by a qualified health care provider of JD's choosing. In short, AH places her mental condition directly at issue in this case. That's true, by the way, again and again. She brings up the idea of PTSD and IPV. Her expert disclosures include proposed testimony from a clinical and forensic psychologist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. I'm sure you can remember her, by the way, who will apparently testify at length about AH's purported PTSD and IPV-related behaviors. Dr. Hughes' assessment of AH's mental condition was based on multiple psychological evaluations and interviews with AH, while JD had no intention of requesting such an examination in this case. AH's expert disclosures, they leave him no choice. In order to meaningfully rebut AH's proposed expert testimony and defend against her allegations in the counterclaim, JD must be afforded his own opportunity to examine AH's mental health condition through an expert. Thus, the court should either require that AH sit for a mental health examination or alternatively strike AH's proposed expert designations related to her mental health condition. Now, we know how that plays out, too. She decides to keep Dr. Dawn Hughes, and in my opinion, that is a huge mistake. Now, interestingly, AH brought about her own downfall with this by also going after JD first. She's the one who introduced the idea at all. She went after him demanding an IME, saying that he has a quote-unquote history of substance abuse. He quote-unquote has a history, etc. She makes all of these allegations, but ultimately gets shot down. Why? Because his mental condition was not what they call in controversy. It's not something that the case relies on, but she decided to go down that path. She opened the door where JD could use this. I mean, listen to this here. Like I said, she brings about her downfall, and she does it over and over again in this case. And I find it fascinating again to see this because it was filed under seal. Quote, "The court may be aware that this is not the first time in this case that a request for a medical examination has been submitted to the court. Back on November the 1st, 2019, AH brought a motion demanding a Rule 410 examination of JD, former Chief Judge White." Now remember, there were two judges on this case. You had Judge White. He was going to be the initial one, but they delayed the case for a year, so he ended up retiring. We ended up with the other judge we saw in the courtroom. But the first judge, he denied her motion on November the 15th, 2019, finding that there was, quote, "no good cause shown for an IME in this case." In his successful opposition to AH's motion, JD correctly pointed out that his mental condition was not, quote-unquote, in controversy, which again, that is the requirement to bring this about. It has to be an essential part of some type of case, again, AH brings it in for herself. While AH attempted to unilaterally make JD's mental condition an issue, where AH argued in her own declaration that JD, again, he had the SA, he also supposedly had a temper, JD did not assert he was suffering from PTSD or any other mental condition as a result of her defamatory statements that would call his mental condition into question. Contrastingly, this is where she has a problem, and notice she vindictively goes after JD again and again in this too. Contrastingly, as discussed in further detail below, AH has asserted that she suffers from PTSD and other mental conditions purportedly as a result of a relationship with JD and with Adam Waldman's public statements. Thus, it is AH, not JD, who made the strategic and calculated choice to put her mental condition in controversy. As a result, JD's counsel spent weeks attempting to meet and confer with AH's counsel to set up a mental examination. They were told by the court that they have to do that. They need meet and confers. When that fails, well, they can ask the judge for something. These efforts, they have been unsuccessful. Surprisingly, rather than produce AH for an examination, AH's counsel has instead renewed her demands that JD submit to an examination. So again, they triple down on something that was already shot down. And once again, JD's mental condition is not at issue in this case. Nothing has changed since the court denied AH's November 2019 request, and her renewed demand is nothing more than a transparent attempt to harass and intimidate JD. Faced with her irrational stonewalling, JD is forced to bring this motion to ensure that he can fully and fairly dispute the proposed testimony of AH's expert. Now, along with this, we see something else that I think people have been wanting to see for a while. That is AH's expert witness, how they came up with their defense of AH. Yeah, you can really see the meager way that they did this. You get the testing that they utilized. They had 11 tests. You get their summary of opinions. Like AH, she's a great historian. Basically, you can trust, you can rely on the way she tells tales. Yep, that opened the door for Dr. Shannon Curry. And Shannon Curry, she not only went over well in the court, she went over well in the court of public opinion. She absolutely decimated AH on the stand. Like I said, all of this, just like everything else, this was an instrument of AH's design. She brought about her undoing. I mean, that's something. But anyway, let me know what you think about all of this. And as always, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do for the channel. If you want to check out links, by the way, they help out the channel. They're in the description. But you being here, that is so important. So thank you. Share this. You know that as well. But I'm going to end here. Until next time, I will see you, and thank you again.